role of East Asia economic cooperation currently, and this is the two challenges we are facing on the political side. And lastly, also to conclude, I skipped to the other. Yeah, the second question here we are facing is that there is a competition for dominance in this region. Currently, all of the cooperation frameworks or mechanisms were originated from ASEAN Summit, with ASEAN playing a dominant role. But as we know, ASEAN's economy is relatively too small to lead the region's economic integration into a higher standard, into a deeper one. So this can also be viewed from two perspectives. From the inside perspective, it is the lack of mutual trust for various historical reasons that make China and Japan fail to work together in co-promoting the process of economic cooperation in the region, like Germany and France in Europe. And from the outside of, from the perspective beyond East Asia, the dominance competition in East Asia cooperation also reflects the intervention and the control of the United States. The United States' intention is very clear. Any regional organization in East Asia without participation of the United States will never be allowed. Yeah, so these are the problems we are facing. Lastly, to conclude, I will give my shallow ideas on the implications for East Asia. Yes, East Asia now is facing a dilemma. We are confused. We are forced to choose. Shall we go forward with a large step in the field of economic cooperation, or we just stagnate, we just stop here with all these multi-level frameworks and mechanisms, but with no one really playing a significant role in pushing forward the region's economic cooperation. So here, personally, I think China's economic rise is key to East Asia's rise. But how? Yes, the only way we can do is to cooperate. Yes. So I'd like to say, firstly, East Asia still need to develop appropriate institutions and mechanisms. And secondly, each of the current regional cooperation frameworks should be allowed to play a role, like 3 10+1s, like 10+3, and EAS and other mechanisms. And thirdly, maybe connectivity is a prerequisite for economic development and community building. And for China, we are also facing a very hard task in its domestic affairs. So for China, firstly, we need to firmly pursue our goal of economic transformation from export-led to domestic demand-led economy. In this way, we can also increase the internal driving force of the region's growth and increase the inclusive growth in this region. And secondly, China also should continue to substantiate the current East Asia economic cooperation. And lastly, maybe China also should seek cross-regional economic cooperation. And in this way, China will help the region to enlarge the market beyond this region. So due to time, maybe I used too much time. So I think I'd like to thank you for your attention. If you have any comments or any questions, you'll be always welcome. Thank you.
Round of applause. Thank you very much. 非常感谢朱教授。So please take notes. Have some presentation from the other professors, but do take notes because there will be time for questions. And for the next speakers, I would like to introduce Professor Kenji Nakatsuji from the Retsumeikan University. This is one of the university which we have the international collaboration for our research. And thank you to Mas Medi Kosandi, which made the research possible. Thank you very much. And without further ado, I will just introduce our next speakers. This is just a short biography about Professor Kenji Nakatsuji. He earned his PhD at the University of Chicago in 1985. His dissertation was titled The Straits in Crisis, America and the Long-Term Disposition of Taiwan. And in the dissertation was wrote about the disposition in Taiwan around 1950 till 1958. And then in 1988, he became an assistant professor of Hiroshima University, and a few years later, an associate professor. And then he moved to Retsumeikan University in 1998 and became a professor in 1999. Very short period of time. In the past, he was a visiting professor for the University of Malaya and the University of British Columbia. In 2006 till 2007, he was a visiting scholar to the Richter Institute at the Harvard University. His works are mostly related to East Asian international relations, and recently he published a book about China's entry to WTO. So with that background and also his presentation later on, he's a very distinguished professor. We are very honorable to have him in our session. We hope that all of our students and participants will take note and ask questions later on. Okay, Professor Kenji.
Well, I guess honor is on our side. We are very grateful being invited to this wonderful symposium at the University of Indonesia. Since we do not have much of time, each of us do not have much of time, I will skip ritualistic statement here, but I would like to thank about lunch you provided as well. It was too good, and I forgot about the fact that I was wearing a tie and made the table stain actually. But luckiest part was a lady sitting next to me was Chinese lady, and she gave me one tissue and to wipe it out. So that was a wonderful, tiny example of harmonious trilateral relations among three nations participating in this conference. Another thing I am relieved after coming to this hall is that I found that the topic is not right. The topic is rise of China, not decline of Japan. Okay. Nowadays Japanese tend to be somewhat sarcastic, including myself. But I'll go straight to the contents of today's discussion. In comparison to Professor Zhu, I am discussing more about political process of regional cooperation. And while she touched mostly about trade aspect, I will discuss financial aspect. Three initiatives I am going to discuss: Asian Monetary Fund and Chiang Mai Initiative, and last but not the least is Asian Currency Unit, ACU. Thank you. Well, this part introduction, I think I mostly made already, but the point is that as we have learned, again, no nation, even including superpowers such as the United States, cannot survive without experiencing huge decline of living standard if it is hit by terrible financial crisis. That's something that we experienced in 1997, 98 in East Asia. So the purpose of my discussion today is that I am tracing back last 15 years in terms of financial cooperation among East Asian nations, how far we have come and how much more we need to go. That's a topic of my discussion today. Okay, I'll start with the Asian Monetary Fund, AMF. That was initiative extended by the guy you were seeing on the right side, Eiichi Sakakibara, who was foreign ministry official of Japan. He, by being asked by ASEAN members, he extended his proposal to establish Asian Monetary Fund, which can be as big as $100 billion at that time. Most of the Asian nations saw terrible, contagious phenomena of financial crisis spread, starting from Thai, Korea, Indonesia, and even it extended to Brazil and Russia in 1 year later. And so to save shortage of foreign reserves, US dollars, for example, Thai spent an entire dollar reserve almost a few weeks after the start of crisis. Obviously, it needed money, injection of money from neighboring nations, including Japan. So Sakakibara extended to propose 100 billion reserve. Most of the money basically supposed to come from Japan. But IMF basically didn't like it because the AMF, Asian Monetary Fund, is kind of overlapping with the IMF, and so it's going to be they're going to be kind of competing each other, and the lender side can take a softer option, so it will cause moral hazard. That's what I said. The United States didn't like it at all, and China was cautious. Probably it was about, I'm talking about 1997, so China was about to be part of financial cooperative relation among East Asian nations, so it was not quite ready, but Foreign Minister Jiang Chen said that probably we don't need another international organization anymore. So, but Sakakibara basically didn't give up. He went to Philippines and decided to hold, agreed with Philippine government that to hold international conference to establish AMF at Manila late October. And no, he traveled to October. He traveled to Asia late October, and the conference was supposed to be held sometime late November. He traveled entire Southeast Asia, and after that, because he knew that the United States didn't like the idea, he flew to the United States. Almost at the same time, IMF realized that most of the Asian nations are supporting the idea. IMF considered that if IMF can be a part of the AMF, it doesn't disagree. At the same time, IMF Fisher sent that letter. Sakakibara met with Lawrence Summers, Undersecretary of Treasury at the time, and Fisher was there too. And after what had happened after the conference was that they communicated the issue while not talking about AMF at all, but they were talking about the expansion of IMF. So, and IMF seems to be had returned back to the original position of opposing AMF. And because of all those things, basically AMF is gone, at least for the moment. The United States obviously didn't like to lose its own dominance of global financial regime, including East Asia. But it was obvious that the United States was unable to help save entire East Asia. IMF was too small too to save East Asia. So the alternative, which Japan came up with, was Chiang Mai Initiative. On May 6th, 1998, ASEAN +3 foreign finance ministers met at Chiang Mai, Thailand, and decided to conclude a series of bilateral swap agreement among them. And Miyazawa, finance minister of Japan at that time, said that this is simply a network bilateral swap agreement, not institutional, centrally controlled financial body, so that it is nothing like AMF. Obviously, he was concerned about U.S. opposition this time again, and because that was simply network of bilateral agreement which do not have any central decision-making body, China didn't oppose either. Basically, neither United States and China didn't like the dominance of East Asian financial order by Japan at that time. And but as far as Chiang Mai Initiative (CMI) is concerned, China basically agreed and decided to be part of it. And this is Prime Minister Wen Jiabao wearing Ritsumeikan baseball uniform. He came to our university and played baseball with our student. And ever since that, he's from time to time lucky to us that he wears Ritsumeikan uniform. It's a huge publicity, PR for us. Okay, and CMY, especially after Lehman Brothers bankruptcy, the ASEAN +3 nations decided to expand CMY up to $80 billion. Remember that I told you that the AMF was supposed to start with the size of $100 billion shortage of dollars. So that money to maintain the value of local currency, they need obviously US dollars, and all those money basically come from Japan, China, and South Korea. So 80% of $120 billion were promised by three Northeast Asian nations. Share of Indonesia is 3.9, and but this allocation or ratio of contribution, especially by Japan and China, basically the ratio is same. Based on equal footing, Japan and China decided to expand CMI, which is obviously very nice, good example of bilateral cooperation for the sake of the entire East Asia. And that agreement was basically made by Prime Minister Aso and the Prime Minister Wen Jiabao of China before the conference of ASEAN +3 in 2009. But CMI is still a multi-network of bilateral agreements. Once area was hit by financial crisis, no one is sure how CMI will actually work. I mean, basically, each nation do have authority to decide what to do independently. that means that one nation might agree to provide with startup, but the other might not. So no one is sure how CMI can be realistic or not. So they decided to multilateralize. They decided to establish one central decision-making body. The idea is basically ASEAN plus 3 host nation will declare for holding a conference, and